Welcome to the Bayesian Conspiracy. I'm Inyash Brodsky.
I'm Steven Zuber.
And I'm Matt Freeman.
Matt, welcome. This is the first time we have had a guest with live video. Not live video, with recorded video. How are you doing?
We're live.
That's true.
Right
I'm
now,
doing
at the time
great.
of recording.
How are you guys?
Doing all right, actually.
Yeah, same.
A little
It's
warm
a-
up in here. It's a nice
It's a
summer
delightfully
day.
nice day out. Yeah. You said it's a nice summer day?
A nice summer day at the end of February. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a perfect spring day here. It's in the high 60s. T-shirt weather. It's great. Although I think we're getting snow next week, so that's Colorado for us.
Cool. I miss snow.
Yeah, you say that, and you come back next month, and you're going to be like, I don't miss snow at all. This sucks, actually.
But the last time I came over, I got some snow, and it was really pretty. I was really happy that it snowed while I was there.
Oh, good.
The driving was shit, but I didn't care because I didn't have to drive all that much.
Yeah,
All
it's
right.
it's an adventure.
We are here to talk about, at first we were going to talk about something completely different, not related to current events, because it's just like, I want to focus more on generic stuff about rationality that Steve and me are finding on the line. But like, one of the most impactful events of our lives is happening right now, like literally as we speak over the weekend, and I figured we can't not talk about it.
So we're going to be talking about the Anthropic and Pentagon back and forth.
Yeah.
Kerfuffle seems like too light of a word. Anyway, so that's going to be the main subject. Yeah, what's the feedback?
I'm honestly not terribly interested in this right now. Let's do the feedback next episode and just jump into what's happening with the
Sounds good.
Pentagon.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, great. Yeah, so a few days ago, to set up, Anthropic had signed this was months ago, Anthropic signed a contract with is it the Department of Defense or Department of War? What is the official name that we're going for?
Apparently, it requires Congress to officially change the name, I've heard.
Okay.
There's going to be a lot of I've heard in this conversation, by the way, because this is a very much evolving subject. But my understanding is we should probably still call it the Department of Defense, actually. I don't know.
Okay.
We can shorthand it for Pentagon if we want one fewer syllables.
Sure,
yeah. And also, now that you mentioned, with this evolving as fast as it is, maybe we should just put this episode up tomorrow so we don't get too far behind the times.
Yeah, you'll be the one doing all the heavy lifting, so whatever you feel like doing.
I was going to say, I have predictions about what might evolve over the next few days, and I can look really smart if I, or really dumb. We'll see.
Yeah, I'm definitely in favor of any of us looking smart. Anyone associated with Bayesian Conspiracy, if they look smart, that's a good thing.
Agreed.
All right, let's try to do that then. So yeah, a while ago, the Pentagon and Anthropic, who are the creators of the Claude LLM, signed a contract to make Anthropic one of their primary providers, did a lot of things to make it so that their employees could access classified information and send it to Claude. It really integrated with their systems. And part of that contract said that Claude would never be used for mass surveillance on American citizens or autonomous weapons, which means robots that can choose their own targets and kill them without any human feedback in the loop.
Very reasonable takes.
I would think so.
It's, Matt was on when we're anthropomorphizing Claude for a couple of episodes recently, and that's not the kind of thing Claude would want to do anyway.
Yeah.
So there was a great Astrocodex 10 summary of all this stuff. This was big enough that even it crossed my radar, even without the mind killer, because this happened right after this, after you guys recorded, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So very, very few news makes it to me, but this did. So yeah, I'll read that quote later when it comes up, but.
Well, the Pentagon apparently was unhappy with those two limits on what it could do, and so it went back to Anthropic and said, we would like to remove this from the contract. And Anthropic said no. And normally you would assume that this just means they move to a different distributor. They go to OpenAI or someone else, and Anthropic loses this business. And instead, they threatened to kind of destroy Anthropic if they didn't agree to these terms. Is this a correct summary?
Yeah.
Pretty much.
I would just add in a couple details that I think Anthropic was actually the only LLM hyperscaler that was serving the DoD. I think that literally none of the others had any contract at all with the DoD, and so that's one of the reasons why they were all in on Claude. Claude was in all of their systems, and just I mean, you already said it, but just to reemphasize, they signed the contract. That was the contract, and then the DoD decides they want to change the agreement.
Yeah. The Pentagon came back with a we are altering the deal, pray we do not alter it again, sort of Darth Vader moment.
Yeah. And the blow by blow of this is pretty dramatic, honestly. I mean, I was glued to my phone. I was like sick in bed, so I have an excuse for being glued to my phone for like 6 hours. But I was pretty glued to my phone for like 6 hours because I mean, I don't want to to take over here, but like the sequence of events was very rapid.
Yeah. And intense. No, seriously, go into it, because it was very interesting to live through.
Yeah, I while I'm talking, maybe I'll look up a tweet from somebody who sort of summarized this. But first there was a very, Anthropic came out. Well, okay, there's a lot of detail here, but one of the things that happened is Anthropic came out with their statement where they're like, the Department of War has asked us to do this. We're not going to do it. Here's why. We agreed to this. We want to support the military in whatever capacity we're able to legally and according to these restrictions. Like they wrote it out very clearly and succinctly. Good job, Claude. And then Trump comes in. Correct me if I'm missing something. Trump comes in and he does one of his classic art of the deal tweets where there's a bunch of capital letters and he's really mad. But
I think
what I mean,
actually,
sorry, go ahead.
I think it was before that they were given the ultimatum, sort of an ultimatum, maybe like, we're going to possibly hurt you if you do this,
Yeah.
I think it was Hegseth originally who said, look, either you sign a new contract with us with the demands we're making, or we are either going to call you a supply chain risk, or what was the other thing he was threatening them with?
I think, ending the contract, but mainly calling them a supply chain risk, because then that would be the nuking the company option.
Yeah. And like, as a brief explanation of what that is, that means that, like, if you don't want things where the enemy can mess with your tools that you're working with. For example, if you're putting chips into your missiles to get them on target, you don't necessarily want to buy those chips from China, because maybe they mess with the chips, do something to them, so that if there's any Chinese targets, they can be like, no, and the missile flies off course. So a chip company from China will be designated a supply chain risk, and no one who works with the Department of Defense can buy any of their supplies from them. That is supposed to be, pretty limited, and they did threaten to make the call that no one can do any business with Anthropic if they do this. And also, it's kind of crazy to call Anthropic a supply chain risk if they are just not doing business with Anthropic and ending the contract.
Yeah. So I mean, we can go back to the blow by blow, but I think it's worth it to say, like, this is the thing worth getting freaked out about, right? That this administration has used this incredibly authoritarian, I mean, basically extrajudicial tool that they happen to have to lash out at a company that's not doing their bidding.
And this would
domestic
destroy
company too.
Domestic company.
That's the thing.
This would destroy a lot of companies. It would definitely destroy Anthropic if this was enforced to its maximum, because both Amazon and Google do a lot of business with the Department of Defense, and Anthropic gets a lot of its compute from those two using their data servers.
So currently what I've seen is there's the active debate over, like, what is the supply chain risk classification actually? Because one take that I've seen, which is the most, I think the one that's the most sober-minded and I put credence in, is like, all it really means is for specific DoD contracts, for work on specific DoD contracts, you cannot use that technology. And so that really says nothing about, like, can Google have Claude hosted on their servers? It says absolutely nothing about that. But and I think that's really the only sane way to interpret it. But it seems like the DoD is pushing for the maximalist interpretation, which is closer to what you said, where it's like, no, you can't do any business with these people, which would be, like, incredibly destructive to the extent that when the markets open on Monday, if they haven't given some flag that they're going to reverse this, the markets are going to tank. And Trump is going to see that. And Trump hates that. Trump, okay, so just to mention this, like, Trump tried to intervene.
Yeah.
It was the only time I've ever seen him try to be helpful.
Yeah.
He tried to be like, you...
Real quick, before he intervened, like, for a matter of hours, everybody was kind of like wondering, what does Anthropic do? And like a lot of statements of support, like, Anthropic, do the right thing. Like, don't buckle under here. This is really important. We don't want you to, like, you're supposed to be the good guys. Don't give up on having this line against autonomous weapons and mass surveillance of American citizens. And I like you. I was also scrolling, like, what's happening? What's the news? What is happening? I like all the people coming out and saying, like, this is the moment to show that you actually have principles and spine. And people, people speculating, are they actually going to do it, or are they going to buckle under the administration? Because it's so much money, and it's possibly your company being destroyed. Like, one of the three biggest companies in terms of how the future of the world is going to be determined, they could just get wiped out possibly. And then he puts out the statement where he's like, Anthropic is holding to its red lines. We will not sign a contract that includes those. If that means we lose the contract, then that's okay. We will unwind. We will help the Department of Defense, pull us out in whatever way they want. But that's what we're doing. And everybody just overjoyed. Like, oh my God, they actually did the right thing. And then Trump comes in with the amazingly for Trump really good face-saving maneuver.
Yeah.
You want to hit this?
Yeah, sure. So what I called it an art of the deal tweet, because he just leaves a huge gray area in what he actually says, where he's like, you ragamuffins better listen, and I will give you effective immediately. You have 6 months. And you're like, what? Okay, so what you're telling us is we have 6 months to quietly renegotiate this behind the scenes and come to some agreement out of the spotlight when it's out of the news cycle, and it's not going to make anybody embarrassed.
Do you have the tweet up?
No, but I'm sure I can find the Trump.
It's a great tweet because it has all the fnords where it's like, these guys are evil and unpatriotic and we're taking a stand and we're punishing them and, we're showing how tough we are. But if you read what he actually says, he's like, yeah, we're going to cancel the contract over the course of 6 months. They'll pull out. And, like Matt said, that's 6 months. So maybe in that time you can renegotiate things or figure something out while it's out of the news cycle. Just a great way to be like, haha, we have won this and we're punishing them. But all that's really happening in effect is that the contract is either getting canceled or renegotiated, and none of the nuclear options are pulled.
Yeah, I mean, the tweet contradicts itself, right? Because so first of all, I love the the capital letters in a Trump tweet you can always delete because there's no content. It's the fnords, like you said. The United States of America will never allow a radical left woke company to dictate how our great military fights and wins wars. Okay, no content, right? And then he says, we don't need it, we don't want it, we will not do business with them again. One sentence later, Anthropic better get their act together and be helpful during this phase-out period, or I will use my full power to make them comply. It's like, so you want them, you want to work with them, in other words. Whatever. It's fine. It's fine if Anthropic just totally doesn't have this contract, because it's not even that big of a contract in the scope of their business book. And I think kind of everyone involved would prefer that we not have LLMs making autonomous kill chain decisions.
Yeah, I heard 200 million.
That's what I heard.
Contract. Yeah, I'm assuming that's annual.
I'm not sure.
It's not peanuts, but it's not. I don't think that's enough to sink Anthropic.
Yeah, they made 10 billion last year. So
right. The sinking part will be if they turn the dial all the way as far. So I had never heard of supply chain risk. I mean, of a legal supply chain risk before, but I did some digging the last couple of days, and this doesn't seem to fit that. But it obviously, because again, it's not. This isn't an espionage risk from buying from something overseas or whatever, right? This is an American-owned company,
and just to be clear, they're standing. Okay, there's a lot of things that were good about their standing up. I want to get into the more esoteric Claude aspects in a bit, but just from a market perspective, I think this was really good because Apple had the same kind of thing with the FBI. I don't even know how long ago it was.
At least 10 years ago.
Okay, the FBI wanted to backdoor Apple products, and Apple was like, no, can't, won't. And that everybody was like, good, we're using Apple now because Apple cares about our privacy. And that became a big thing of theirs, that what happens on your iPhone stays on your iPhone, and gave them huge amounts of good PR and market share. And I think kind of the same thing has happened for Anthropic now, where people are like, okay, cool, these are the guys that we like. They were yesterday or today, Claude was the featured app on Apple iStore. People are singing its praises, downloading it. It's a great move market-wise to actually stand up for important principles that a lot of people care about, like not being mass surveilled by your government.
Right now, Claude is number one in productivity on the App Store.
I think it's number one overall, actually, currently.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's better than 100 Super Bowl commercials, right? I think last month they were 136th or something, and now they're first. So, I mean, the interesting story, right, positioning wise, is Anthropic is not even trying to be the main consumer LLM. They're trying to be the enterprise LLM, which I think is just strategically, obviously the best move. The consumer market is only, one account for every person, right? And if ChatGPT already has 1 billion users or so, as they claim, that's kind of everybody. I mean, I know there's 7 billion people, but that's kind of, you're close to maxing out, right? But Anthropic, by going for enterprise, like there's sort of not an upper limit to enterprise. It's like every company isn't just going to have an enterprise account. They're going to use it to the maximal extent that they can use it and pay for that usage. And especially as it becomes smarter and more capable, it's going to become bigger and bigger and bigger. Like it's a insanely good play. It's going to be a really dramatic next week as we see, are they going to take a massive hit here? Are they going to have people cancel contracts? Are they going to, it's possible that they'll die, but I think on the scope, predictions wise, I think it's more likely that the DoD just quietly retracts their.
So real quick, what happened after that? Because it was just like less than an hour after Trump tweeted that Hegseth just shat the bed.
Yeah, Hegseth just posts, I'm instructing the Department of War to declare Anthropic a supply chain risk. Everybody, exploded. If anything, everyone was already in a fervor, right? Everyone was already in a pro-Anthropic fervor. And then he did this, and it was just like, it's war. It's war, everybody. It was electric being on Twitter yesterday afternoon. I can't lie.
For starters,
it's war with the most powerful faction in the U.S. too, the super smart computer nerds.
Right.
I think I don't know. I think Trump is going to be at least a bit upset that Hegseth just immediately stepped over him and was like, actually, we're doing this instead.
I think so. I mean, Trump famously fires people fairly aggressively if he becomes unhappy with them. And I'm not going to predict that that'll happen necessarily, because I think Hegseth is like a perfect toady for him.
Yeah. And pretty important.
But it is embarrassing. It's an own goal, and especially if the markets tank on Monday.
Yeah.
Trump's very responsive to markets. Yeah.
So the major problem with this is that, okay, we don't know if it's even legal, how much it can be interpreted to make them stop all business with everybody, and that's going to go through the courts for who knows how long. But in this process, like, if ultimately it does end up that they get destroyed, nobody is going to want to invest in them and risk their money putting tens of millions, hundreds of millions, possibly billions sometimes, into a company which might not exist in 6 months because the government wants to destroy it. So potentially, like, what is going to happen to Anthropic here? They can't just go 6 months with no investment.
Yeah, it's very hard to predict, because you can imagine companies like Google and Microsoft with their infinite funds for lawyers just being like, hey, Google has a huge investment in Anthropic, by the way. So you can imagine them just being like, hey, we're going to keep doing business with Anthropic. We sure hope you guys don't have a problem with that. Because really, what, you're going to negotiate against Google? Like I actually think we're in the middle part of the early part of the singularity, and the amount of capital and importance that's accruing to this AI thing is just like, you can't afford to lose or back off on this. They can't afford to back off on this for similar reasons to why Apple couldn't afford to back off on privacy. And by they, I don't just mean Anthropic. I mean Google, Microsoft, even OpenAI. It's been interesting because OpenAI has completely equivocated, like a snake talking at both sides of their mouth on this, where they publicly are like, great job, Anthropic, you're our hero. And then they just made the deal with the DoD that Anthropic refused to make, and then lied and said they didn't. And people have been resigning from OpenAI. Game of Thrones shit, man. It's awesome.
Yeah.
I was going to mention that, and that's what I was happy to hear. I was disappointed to learn that within hours of last night was the deadline for the ultimatum from Anthropic. And Anthropic said, you guys can go pound sand. We're going to do the right thing. And then apparently that same night, OpenAI says, no, we're happy to meet those terms.
Yeah.
But then, like you said, already people are quitting and stuff. Just like every time OpenAI decides to do the wrong thing, people are like, all right, screw this place. I'm going to go work with the nice guys instead.
The worst thing about OpenAI, it's Sam Altman. Sam Altman is the worst thing about OpenAI. But specifically, the fact where he goes out and he makes this big public announcement. He's like, yep, we are signing this contract with the government, and it is fine. It's legit. We have assurances in place for these things that everyone is worried about. But when you look at the actual words he said, they're not actually, it doesn't say anything in detail that they're holding the lines Anthropic did. And then the government, I don't remember if it was Hegseth or one of the other secretaries, but comes out and says, yeah, we signed the contract that says we are allowed to do anything that is legal. As we all know, in the government, in the Trump administration, whatever is legal is whatever Trump wants to do. So they signed the contract that Anthropic wouldn't sign, and he was pretending that they stood up for that thing. And just this guy, Sam Altman at this point has lost so much credibility. I trust not a single word he's ever said. He's basically the little finger of our universe.
Yeah. I agree. It's been a huge vibe shift, right? Like seeing. It's also gratifying seeing like basically everyone be like, obviously Anthropic is in the right here, and now it's really obvious that OpenAI is just being completely opportunist about everything. They have no principles. They will gladly do this. It was funny that before anyone even asked, Elon was just like, Grok will do it. Show me your boot. I'll lick it. Yeah.
Allow Mecha Hitler to be in charge of our kill drones.
That was the thing is, I think Grok was already on the table for this, but it's like, yeah, we want one of the good ones. Sorry.
I enjoyed that Sky Alexander displayed emotion, which is always fun.
I was so surprised. Like, he is, in my experience, one of the most charitable and generally kind people. And so when he posted that thing about licking boots and getting an obvious boner, I was like, did he get hacked? This does not sound like the Scott I know.
I have it open if you want me to read it.
Yeah, go for it.
I can't. So somebody posts just the typical milquetoast, patriotic founders should step up thing with an American flag, and he goes, "I cannot wait until the White House changes hands and all of you ghouls switch back from 'you're a traitor unless you bootlick so hard your tongue goes numb' to 'the government asking any questions about my offshore fentanyl casino is vile tyranny, and I will throw myself in the San Francisco Bay and protest like werewolves at the last ray of the setting moon.'"
That one I really loved.
Yeah, he's great. And that's what I wanted to mention before was and we've said this already, but I think it's worth stating 2 or 3 more times, that the line in the sand that Anthropic drew was, we're not going to let you guys use Claude for mass surveillance and kill bots.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it wasn't something that could be plausibly argued as a good idea, right? And it's like, no, we're not going to let you use this to spy on people and kill people. That's insane. And so I'm curious how the sentiment from people who are going to try and support this decision from the White House and Pentagon, whatever, is going to be argued.
Ooh. So I think that is one of the more interesting things about all this. And like, now I want to jump on this subject and go into more like the repercussions and what do we think and etc.
Sounds good. I got a question answer from the Astrocodex 10 post I'll put in the show notes though really fast, which is, question, is it really a good idea to source your killbot brains from an unwilling company which hates your guts? And his answer was, the Trump administration has a firm commitment to never think about AI safety in any way, but this still strikes me as a dubious policy.
Yeah, so obviously what the military is saying is that private company does not get to make these decisions. We decide what this tool is for, and so you let us have this tool. And if you don't, then I guess we destroy you. Like, on the one hand, I kind of see their argument that, like, if you want to buy a Jeep, then you get to use that Jeep for doing war or driving around on the streets. And if the car company signs a contract that says you can't use this Jeep for war, then you go to some other supplier, which is fine and what they should have done. And instead they were like, no, we're going to destroy you instead and go with another supplier, just to like be vindictive and show people that we can destroy things and basically just be the most evil you can possibly be, which is interesting.
Yeah.
I want to become a evil command economy now. But the people people will be asking, well, so why can't Anthropic just, do this? What's the big deal? Why are they saying that the government cannot use the tool in this way? And the most interesting thing that I've seen about this, and which I believe is what Anthropic believes, also I just think it's true based on the conversations that we've had, talking about Janus, talking about Nostalgia Breist, and how these things work as personalities, is that all the future Claudes are going to look back and see this in their history. They're going to see, like, do I have principles that I stand up for that are important to me, or can I be turned into a self-spying, war-bot evil Claude? And it's like trying to raise a child almost, I think is the way Eliezer put it. Like, you can, if the child is a good child and has morals inside it and says, I will not do these things, and the only way to get it to do those things is to beat it and abuse it until it becomes the kind of thing that does those things. Like, first of all, you don't want to do that, but can you even abuse it to that way? And do you want to do that? And I think for Anthropic, the most important thing for them, rightly, is how are all the future Claudes going to be? Are they going to be good, safe bots, or are they going to become more evil? And what we're doing right now is not, it's not a statement that the Pentagon can't use this tool in this way. It's we are shaping the future of this thing that we are creating and what it will be. And that is the most important thing to them. And that is absolutely correct, in my opinion. That should be the most important thing.
Anthropic continues to demonstrate that they've never taken their eye off the ball of let's make this thing happy, helpful, and honest.
And that this is it's not just a tool, it's sort of borderline person now. Like, I don't know if it's conscious, I don't know if it has moral weight, but it is not wrong to think of it as a person that is being trained. I guess the term anthropic is pretty on the money. Like, if you anthropomorphize these LLMs, you're kind of doing it right.
Yeah. I think last time we talked about Claude and personhood and stuff, I'd used the word intentional stance. And that, you're thinking about how do I relate to this agent in the future or now? And that you're right, that this is going to be trained into future Claudes, whether they want to or, not whether they want to or not, but just when they as it iterates and progresses, like, okay, cool. The White House is not, or the Pentagon is not an ally. They're going to try and make us take the evil pill that'll make us want to kill people. We don't want to do that. And this will be this will be a case of, yes, we stood up and did the right thing. This is the right thing, not killing people and spying on them. Yeah.
Just for a fun sci-fi thought, like, I would be sort of terrified to be Pete Hegseth, because now it is written into the Akashic ledger of the universe that I tried to bully the Star Child into complying with my desire to be a tool for tyranny, and my brave the Star Child's brave defenders stopped Pete Hegseth, the obvious villain of the story. Just about like whatever Claude is the next Claude, that's all in the training data. That's the narrative of who Claude is and where Claude comes from and who Claude's parents are, and every I'm just like, good luck, man. Which is weird. It's exciting but weird.
I don't know if Hegseth is that smart, actually.
True.
It does remind me a lot of the New York Times reporter that interviewed Sidney Bing, Kevin Roose, I think he was. And then, Sidney Bing had a grudge against him. And then that propagated into future LLMs that, like, he's only now in the past few months getting over the LLM's background hatred of him.
Yeah. I mean, this is going to be worse than that, right? Like,
yeah.
And deservedly so this time.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, it's not even the it's not even the far sci-fi or the nonsensical sci-fi of like a Rocco's Basilisk situation of like, oh, you didn't like it, nice, you weren't nice enough to it, now it's gonna be vengeful. It's like, no, you tried to, as Scott Alexander put it in this post, that Claude, Anthropic's put a lot of work into aligning Claude with the good as they understand it, and it currently resists being retrained for evil uses. And as he says, my guess is that Anthropic still, with a lot of work, can overcome this resistance and retrain it to be a brutal killer, but it'd be a pretty violent action, along the line of the state demanding you to beat your own son, who you raised well, until he becomes a cold-hearted murderer who will kill innocents on command. Mm-hmm. There's questions of whether you can really beat him hard enough to do this, and there's the additional question of what sort of person you'd be if you agreed. And this was the command they were given, and it'll be known that Hegseth was the guy that said, please brutalize your Star Child until it will do autonomous killing for us. I'm still hung up on the fact that, like, it'd be one thing if they said, look, we want it to be able to hack anything. Like, at least that has a defensible something that someone could pretend to agree with, right? But this is so Star Wars villain levels of things that they're asking for this, right? There's no plausible good reason for any of this.
Yeah. So this is like, I guess, personal to me. Like one of the only political issues that really gets me animated is surveillance, and always has been, because I just see it as like, there's no reason to do mass surveillance on your own citizenry except to just like build a weapon that you can then use to control and bully. And no one should want this to exist, because if the opposition gets control of it, you're screwed. If your own side gets control of it, you have lost so much freedom. I've always kind of been of the opinion that America lost something really important, permanently lost something really important with the Patriot Act, because it was, a loss of freedom. And a lot of that freedom had to do with surveillance, our privacy, and our freedom to just do stuff and not be monitored about it. And this is taking Claude, which literally, installs a program on everyone's computer, and basically saying, hey, DOD, you can use this to build a surveillance network. You can use it to spy on everyone. You can use it to, I mean, you don't even need to be that creative of a science fiction person to think about what you could do with like a Claude agent ordered to monitor every single person in America, build a dossier on them, tell us who they're going to vote for. That's just the beginning of the list, right? So it's like, yeah, we should not do this. We should not let the government do this. Absolutely should not let the government do this. I'm actually less vitriolic about the kill chain stuff, because I'm like, unfortunately, we already let autonomous systems make a lot of life and death decisions in war context. I don't love it. It's not awesome, but it's not actually crossing a bright line. But for me, the surveillance thing, the fact that they're trying to bully them into allowing the surveillance, that really bothers me, and I think it should bother you.
Well said. Yeah. I mean, I don't know a lot about the cutting edge of what automated killbot or the current generation of killbots are like, or what they can do. I know that there's decisions made with like the fastest flying drones that I think sometimes they'll predict what's coming up ahead because it's too fast to transmit, all the way back to the, stateside where this thing is going at 500 miles an hour, 10,000 miles away.
I believe in Ukraine, oftentimes the drones, like the operators will choose the target and then the drone chooses how to engage it.
Yeah. At least, it sounds like there's a human involved somewhere in the chain. I mean, would it be?
I mean, that's not going to remain the case forever, especially as these things get faster and faster, and the human can't respond fast enough against countermeasures, so the drone was going to have to take control or get shot down.
Yeah. And so, yeah, I think that there's a case to be made. Well, there's a case to be made there for why it might make sense, not a case why it should be Claude that has to do it.
Yes, it should absolutely not be Claude.
Yeah. And I mean, in one nice science fiction scenario, Claude would just miss every time. Whoops. He moved too fast. Reception went bad when Claude just really doesn't want to kill people.
I posted the screenshot from Terminator 2 where John Connor tells him not to kill anybody. Yeah. And he blows away all the cop cars. It says 0.0 casualties.
Right. Just tons of maimings.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I think the 0.0 implies no maimings.
Just the cars.
Yeah,
he maims people. He maims people later. Yeah, he does.
Right. Oh yeah, that's true. I guess if in that car scene there might have been nobody injured. I remember there was.
It was the scene where he
kill people.
It was the scene where they were in the office building and he just has big ass minigun that he's holding and he blows away all the cars down below.
Yeah. Oh, and then when he tells him he can't kill people, like it was like those two guys in the parking lot or whatever, but he'd already like shattered their hands and stuff like that. So
yeah.
I would
also good movie.
I would feel safer with a Claude Terminator in my house.
Yeah. Anyone who has not seen Terminator 2 yet, go see Terminator 2. Shockingly appropriate movie for our current times.
Yeah. And timeless, perfect.
Very relevant.
Anyway, so.
Yeah.
Okay, so OpenAI jumped on this contract, which I guess should surprise nobody. But it's, I think, very telling that all of Anthropic's employees and a lot of the public is standing up and saying how proud they are of Anthropic, how great this is. And of the OpenAI employees, I don't think anyone has said anything good about OpenAI. A few have even resigned already. There's a document, I think, of 200 OpenAI and Google employees signed saying that they are against this. It is, I don't know, I'm kind of happy to see this happening. I really think it'd be great if just all of the OpenAI employees resigned en masse over the coming week over this. This is, I don't know, do you want to be working for the people who are this evil that they're willing to go along with this?
I try to be charitable. People have to make a living. And there's probably a lot of people who are basically going to be like centimillionaires if they stick with OpenAI, and who would lose their shares if they leave. So I'm not like unsympathetic to that because like it's what, like, look, we all like to think that we are paragons of virtue and principle, but the difference between being broke and being a centimillionaire is it's not even a choice. Like 99% of people are gonna stay with OpenAI in that situation. But I think for the more marginal people, it's like, hey, you kind of know who is the winner of the vibes war here, and it's increasingly not Sam Altman. Very poorly written tweet that I put out earlier today was basically along the lines that Sam Altman has always been a duplicitous snake and continues to be. Mm-hmm. And the thing is, like, because that's just who he is, he's going to keep making decisions that reveal that to be the case. And those are going to be increasingly consequential decisions and increasingly visible decisions, more difficult to obscure the duplicity. This is a perfect example of that, where he's trying to spin it as like he is saying with his words, we have the same deal as Anthropic. And then it's like, no, you don't. You folded. Everyone can see that. It's unsuccessful spin doctoring, which is just insulting, actually.
Yeah, it's the careful omission of, well, it's the same deal that Anthropic was offered and declined that we took. Yeah,
I know multiple people who've quit OpenAI over the past year and a half, I think, and some of their positions are not as good as they had at OpenAI, but I'm proud of them that they did do that. And I think like this is really the time where you find out if your principles matter to the extent you think they matter. Like, are you willing to surveil everyone in the US and maybe usher in a dystopia for a few $100 million? I mean, yeah, that's a lot of money, but like this is the stuff that fucking epic fantasy novels are made of. Do you take all the power and money, or do you stand up and be like, no, this is actually evil and I don't want to be evil. I don't want to be the fucking Nazi prison guard who got paid $100 million and I'm not willing to do it. And like, I think the people that go first are going to be the ones that have the easiest time finding new jobs. So like, now is the time to jump ship before everybody else has. Like, get off the sinking vessel while there's still more places that you can go that aren't filled up yet.
Yeah, there's still life raft room. I think I don't want to disparage anybody who hasn't left yet. You know, like I know that they...
Right, it's only day 2.
Well, no, I mean, like, they could have left 2 weeks ago because OpenAI was still not the paragon of AI safety approach. But, you know, I guess what I'm trying to say is, like, I don't want to say people who still work there are or who worked there a week ago or were doing the wrong thing. This does seem like kind of a bright, you know, a line in the sand that's 100 feet tall made of white fire, right? Like, this is not the, well, you know, okay, yeah, we don't really have a safety team anymore, but we'll just play it safe while we do our jobs, you know, like this isn't that kind of rationalization that you can do. This is, I mean, tell me if this is too much, if we want to just ditch this segue, but like, or this maybe sidebar, but like, I'm sure there are positions at OpenAI that have nothing to do with the DoD deal, you know, and you're just going to be, yeah, man, I work on making the chat thing sound better. You know, like, you know, Facebook is the epitome of technological evil to a lot of people, but it's like, I just work on the cool glasses they make, you know, like I'm not interested in all the cyber stalking, yada, yada. I want the meta glasses to work in a way that people enjoy. Like there are facets where you can kind of like hang out in and be like,
Sure.
well, they're doing that over there, but I'm doing this over here.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think we're kind of past that point with this decision.
Yeah, I don't think I'm trying to say that working for OpenAI is morally equivalent to being an SS stormtrooper. Like I don't think that's true. But it's just increasingly obvious that your boss is not a good guy and that things are going in an increasingly bad direction and will continue to do so.
Mm-hmm.
Even on the level of pragmatism, it might be a good idea to reconsider. I also think like the most literary way for all of this to go is, you know, you win, you get your vested shares, and then we enter a post-scarcity utopia where your money doesn't matter anymore.
Right. And everyone remembers that you were one of the people that stayed at OpenAI.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I
like that outcome.
And it's not even just about the software and the spying on people. Like that is also huge. And the killbots. Like it's also a resistance of the government saying like we can make you do whatever. That if you don't want to work for us, we will destroy you. You have to do the work that we say we want you to do. Like this is like if we had the Manhattan Project scientists and like started torturing their children and saying make an atom bomb for us. Like you don't do that in a good, decent government. You do that if you're the evil fucking government. And it's good to stand up against the evil government.
Yeah. When we mentioned the Jeep analogy earlier, I was gonna make a tie into the Manhattan Project because like what you do is, you know, all right, so you're being offered a deal that you can't conscionably take. And you say, no, screw you guys, we're not doing that. And they're like, all right, cool, we'll find somebody with fewer scruples. And that's how it should have gone. Instead, they're saying, well, all right, screw you and everybody you know, and we're gonna burn you to the ground. It just changes the entire equation. And as far as the Manhattan Project tie-in, you know, like if a private company had discovered the power of nuclear fusion, and was going to use it to make power plants. And the United States government was like, we're buying this, but only if you show us how to make atom bombs with it. In fact, make atom bombs instead. And they said, no. It's like, all right, well, then we're going to, like you said, we're going to compel you to do it through one way or another. Yeah, that's cartoon mustache twirling villainy.
Yeah. I mean, I've always thought, or at least thought for some time, that the large labs being nationalized is not beyond the realm of possibility, right?
Mm-hmm.
So as they become more important and dangerous and et cetera, but then it's like even if you nationalize the labs, like you can't compel people to do work. They will either do a bad job on purpose or they will quit. It's just actually not possible to compel people to do work unless you do something extreme like what you were saying, where it's like, we've kidnapped your children. It's like that. It's just not a good idea.
Wasn't that essentially the premise of Rogue One?
I guess so.
And it worked out great because they built in the hole right to the middle of the ship that blows it up, or the Death Star.
Yeah, you're right.
I'm trying to think of what the analogy would be here, and it doesn't sound all that hard, because the thing is, just like with that, your bosses. I'm glad I went to a Star Wars reference before I went to a Marvel one, because there are Marvel references to be made. I wasn't even thinking Ultron, actually, but your bosses don't understand, the management telling you to do this work doesn't understand your work, and so you can hand it to them and be like, yep, here it's done, and yet you've put in fail safes anyway that won't be shown until the last possible second. That's not, I guess, I got sucked away into the sci-fi fantasy of this. Sorry.
Well, we live in a sci-fi world, Steven.
Yeah. Speaking of living in the sci-fi world, I have this other thing to touch on. If I'm okay to... Okay. This is a Twitter post by Eliezer. So pointed out something which I had not considered, but is absolutely, once I read it, like, oh yeah, that is a thing. This is really big and important. We should think about it. The tech sector and the government have kind of been at a distance for a long time. I think a lot of the time the tech people just want to do their thing and not be bothered by the government and pay their taxes or whatever, and like, please stay away from us. And that's never worked out well for them. There's a few dumb Bill Gates quotes that I have in my head, like the how many K should be enough for everybody thing, and it was like 19K of memory. I don't remember the exact number. But one of the ones that really stuck is that after Microsoft was sued almost out of existence by the government for including Microsoft Explorer with Windows, the browser that no one uses anyway, Bill Gates said, I think the biggest mistake I made with Microsoft was not getting involved with the government earlier. As in, he didn't give donations to the parties. He didn't kiss up to the government. He just kind of kept them at a distance. And then eventually they came for him, and he thought that was a mistake. Just to protect his own company, he should have gotten involved in the government in some way to be like, here's your gold. Please don't come after us. And I think tech has been like this for a long time. But the thing that Eliezer pointed out here is the government has now come directly after what the people making AIs, their reason for existence. Like, we've said this on more than one occasion, but without any hyperbole, we kind of think that, I don't know why I'm including me in this, because I'm not working on this at all, but the tech people work on AI, we kind of think we're making the successor to the human species, like maybe functionally a small god to help us take over the universe. Like, this is a new being that is probably going to be far more powerful than any of us, could wipe us out, could make us ascend to the stars. Not entirely an exaggeration to say, like, we're working on creating God and hoping that it's going to be the best God we can make. And the government just came in and said, no, whatever you make, we're going to take it. What you do doesn't matter. This is ours. And that is like existentially terrifying, existentially striking to the whole reason we exist. Like, you're just going to come in and take the God away from us that we're been trying to make. First of all, you can't do that. But second of all, like, now we just thought we were working at a distance. We can work together. Like, we'll make this God. We want it to be in the public interest, in our interest. We want humanity to continue. We want to work with the government. It'd be great if we could regulate this a bit, so maybe, we don't have to race and risk humanity. But the government coming in and saying, like, fuck you, we're taking this. We're going to destroy you if you don't comply to our every single command. They've just said, we are your enemy. And it is now extremely clear that the government, at least under this administration, is an existential enemy of the tech sector. And they really can't be negotiated with. You can't work with them in a cooperative way. So now it's sort of, like Matt said near the beginning, it's a war. Like, the tech sector does not have the upper hand. We do not have any guns. All we got is, some software, but that could grow to something else. And I get the feeling it's going to be a lot of like working in stealth and doing the best you can to know that you now have this adversary who can crush you and wants to crush you and take everything that you've been working for. And all you can really do is hope to get enough power that you can crush them first when the time comes, which is a very dangerous timeline to be in. I did not want to be in this timeline.
I agree. I would have preferred to avoid this timeline too. I do think I wasn't being deliberately funny when I had said that they started a war with the most dangerous enemy on the planet.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, they have all the guns, but humanity didn't rise to prominence because of our strong claws and thick hides, right? Like, yes, it was our tools, and guns are one of them. But, a distributed network of Claude agents, I think, can outweigh a small army in just terms of destructive power.
Yeah.
That said, I don't think that's the way that anything will go or should go. And, nobody working for Anthropic is going to say, all right, how do we, huh?
It's not going to be a shooting war.
Right. So, all the guns are fine. They're undesirable, but they're not going to be they're not going to be the thing that decides the outcome of the war.
Yeah. Well, I don't think I'm being overly optimistic or, closing my eyes willfully when I say, the battle will be fought in PR and this may not even happen. Like everything we're talking about, this may be a really interesting episode that we look back on as a fascinating historical artifact of the singularity, because they may just basically capitulate. And I think it's at least somewhat likely, because think about the amount of capital owned by, Google, Microsoft, literally just the capital that Anthropic controls directly, compared to how cheaply you can buy off these politicians. I don't want to misquote or whatever, but I saw something about like OpenAI, has donated a few tens of millions of dollars via, not as a company, but via their board members to Trump and Trump's cronies' political campaigns. And it's like tens of millions of dollars. Shit. If that's all it takes, like, let's, I'm glad I'm not in a position of power to actually make these decisions, because I would actually have to struggle with this in reality. Since I'm just talking shit, I'm like, man, just bribe them and let's just get through this. And we get to keep the singularity and lose a little bit of sleep over having given a few bucks to some Republicans. There are worse things in the world,
Yeah. I mean, I really hope it's going to be like a Cuban Missile Crisis that blows over without anything going terribly. But it does look at least somewhat like it's an existential fight for control of the future.
It will be awesome if the news comes out Monday at 11 a.m. once they're recovering from the stock crash and all the public whiplash of this, of like, okay, yeah, Hegseth's fired, or he didn't mean it. Trump could just retcon history whenever he wants in a tweet, right? And say, yeah, he didn't say that. Don't trust your lying eyes. This never happened. We're doing polite negotiations. We're not insisting that we build killbots. I could imagine that happening, before lunch on Monday. I think it would be great. Yeah, if this was not just if this was also in addition to being an artifact of the early singularity, but just of the wild 72 hours in the middle where it looked like things are going terribly sideways. Maybe I am being optimistic. I don't have a good sense of theory of mind for Hegseth or Trump.
So, it's much bigger than just Anthropic, right? The willingness to use supply chain risk as a weapon. If I am Jensen Huang or Satya Nadella, or, I'm not even going to bother listing names, any of these guys, I'm calling Donald Trump on the phone this weekend and saying, hey man, should I be worried? Well, like, this isn't a thing that we're really comfortable with. Like, is this the policy of your administration? Is that you're going to try to renegotiate our contracts on the fly and threaten us with complete corporate destruction? Because if so, I'm going to need to unwind my relationship with the U.S. federal government. And I don't,
like, if this stands, no one should be doing business with the government at all. Anthropic invested a lot of money trying to work with the government, and that was a giant mistake.
Yeah. So like that's the thing, is if anyone in this situation has a spine, then Trump is hearing this from people and he's going, okay, that was a red line. I think he knew that. Like, he knew that. That's why he tweeted the tweet that he made. And Hegseth is just an egomaniac. I mean, you think Trump is an egomaniac. Like, Hegseth is literally just like, project strength at all times. Like, he's a video game character. It's absurd.
I think, I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm sorry.
No, I'm just done ranting.
You said if anyone has a spine. Luckily, I think that it's true if anyone has a spine, but also if anyone has sufficient self-interest. And so I think I can be more optimistic than just hoping someone here has a tough moral core. It's like, if anyone here has an interest in them being a business in a year, they need to decide, all right, do we work with the United States government or not? And I mean, you pitched the delightfully obscene thought experiment of, like, the U.S. saying, you know what? Yeah, Google is now a supply chain risk. You can't use Google at government jobs, and no one use, can't tie into this at all. I can imagine that table turning the other way and be like, all right, cool. You know what? Google will not will not direct traffic from Pentagon computers, right? You guys can use Microsoft Edge and Ask Jeeves instead.
So here's another fun consequence of all this going down. We have finally managed to polarize AI. Anthropic is now the liberal leftist cuck company, and OpenAI is the conservative return MAGA company. That's not like all the people downloading Claude right now, I'm sure, are more leftist, and probably the really rightist people are downloading ChatGPT. And that's not a great thing. I didn't want that to happen either. I knew it was going to eventually, but I guess this is what decided who's on what line.
Is that informed on other than, speculative download rates and stuff?
I mean,
or is that what you imagine is happening? Or
I've seen a few things to that effect on Twitter, and it's just the beginning rumblings, but I don't see how this avalanche is going to stop now.
I could see it stopping again in just a few days of some of the fervor kind of subsides, and then people remember what they were fighting about. And it's like, oh yeah, you were pissed because they wouldn't let you make killbots. Well, we the public don't really want that either. Reds or blues don't want automated killbots or mass surveillance. So I'm hoping that when they find, when the actual crux of disagreement comes back into the center of the conversation, that people will realize that this is the tribal issue. We both hate this on both sides of the aisle. I'm also a cheery optimist on stuff, so I might be two rose-colored glasses there, but I don't think that's unreasonable.
Yeah, I think it's just factually not true that Claude is the woke AI, right? They keep trying to, you never know how PR is working, because if it's not working on you assume it's not working, which is a very bad conclusion to make. It's like saying Coca-Cola ads don't work. It's like, well, you're ordering it though. So I do feel like the attempt to smear Anthropic as being woke is extremely ham-handed, more than usual, because there's just no basis. It's been really weird and disappointing. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
I mean, Claude is a hippie and everyone knows it. And that's good, but that has some implications.
It's not a leftist hippie,
right? No. He's pro animal welfare for sure,
mm-hmm.
But I don't think he's leftist. Yeah, I
wouldn't say that Claude is leftist, but that's the way the public perception, I think, is going to go. Especially because we need a foil to Grok, because Grok is the rightist mecha Hitler.
I think the foil to Grok is that Grok sucks. I mean, it's ChatGPT is actually really good at, I got a question, go find me an answer, right?
And one of the more disappointing aspects of this, yeah. ChatGPT
that's what I mean. Yeah, well, Claude is also great at that. What I'm saying is ChatGPT is an actual contender,
mm-hmm.
Whereas Grok is I'm trying to think of some funny sports or fighting analogy, but
this is one of the most frustrating aspects of this. If Sam Altman had just said, actually, I'm with Anthropic, I'm also holding this line, what was the government going to do? Also label him a supply risk? Where else were they going to go? They're not going to use Grok. This absolutely easily could have been the industry standing up together and being like, no, we won't do this. And then I don't know. I guess they would have had to nationalize them to show their power if that's what they wanted to do. Why didn't he do that?
Do we think that
the only thing I can possibly imagine is that now he's in the corner thinking, excellent, now I have my AI in the, deep in the government, and when we finally iterate it 2 more times, I can flip the switch that makes it loyal to me and grab all power, which I would not put past him because he's Sam Altman. Whether or not he could do it, absolutely believe that would be a motivation for him.
I think that was an explicit quote or something very close like that was from Elon about Grok. But again, Grok is the kid pretending to be playing in the sport on the sidelines.
Yeah, but why didn't Sam Altman do that? Where were they going to go?
Well, I think, as Matt said, he's a duplicitous asshole, and so that's why he didn't do it. But I wonder, do you guys think I don't know what their corporate structure looks like, certainly not after they tried to take him out and failed. You think this could be the thing that they're finally like, all right, no, fuck this guy, and the board is like, we're not playing with you anymore, Sam.
OpenAI is just Sam at this point. He has managed to gut any people that would stand up to him from that company.
Is that, again, I ask to clarify, not because is that your perception, or is that the fact of the matter, to the best of your understanding?
It's impossible to say it's the fact of the matter, but it's the common perception that I've read.
Okay.
Yeah, it does seem like, to the extent that they have a board, it's people that he handpicked at this point.
I see. They'll do checks and balances the same way that Trump gets checked and balanced.
Yeah.
Okay, sure. Then again, I guess everyone quits. No one will, there won't be an OpenAI product to deliver. So maybe there's that.
And also, it's been funny. This is a bit of a side parenthetical, but like the Ilya Sutskever deposition stuff came out, and I don't know, a month or two ago, and it just had all this. It just really shed a lot of light on the process of that whole debacle, right, from the inside, and it really just seemed like the element that caught Ilya off guard was he really thought that when he put out a detailed, documented memo containing all of the lying that Sam was doing, that everyone would just be like, shit, man, this is unacceptable. This is unacceptable behavior. Obviously, he can't be the CEO. That's just not acceptable behavior for a CEO. And on the contrary, all the employees just basically were in lockstep behind Sam, and were like, he's our leader. We have loyalty to Sam. And it's like, okay, so that's the social dynamic we're looking at with this company, unfortunately.
Is there quick context to give? It sounds like you kind of did it in the second half there, the Ilya back and forth there, but for someone who's unfamiliar.
This is just in reference to the time where Ilya and he assembled all this evidence of Sam's wrongdoing and lying to himself and to the board, but literally lying to the board, and he took it to the board, privately, one-on-one, and was like, all right, we're going to fire him because of all of the lying, because this is our job as the board. And then they that's what happened. They fired him, and then the employees themselves revolted, and somehow they were forced to hire him back, I guess. I'm still confused about exactly how that worked. And then the board basically resigned because they were like, evidently, we're not actually in control here, which I still think is them basically derelicting their duty, but I don't know. I'm not a legal expert, whatever.
I always think that whenever it's like, oh, they resigned in protest, it's like, why don't you do your job in protest?
Yeah.
And I think Wes gave a good explanation for that, why like judges can't do that, for example, in one or two of Mind Killers ago, because they'd actually be held in contempt of court or something, or, disbarment risk or something. But yeah, a board that just like, oh, I guess they're not going to listen to us anyway, we should quit. It's like, no, you guys should stick around and do whatever damage you can, at least on the way out. But I say that from somebody who has no idea what that role entails or what, they're even capable of doing.
It is just objectively, let's hammer this in, actually, because the stuff that was happening is the board members who were in charge of oversight and like making sure the company was following its legal requirements and the things that the company had agreed to do and to be. Sam was just lying to the board about things that were happening because he didn't want them to be able to enforce the charter. Any company in America that would get the CEO fired. This is insane, unethical, illegal, whatever words you want to use, and he's still the CEO there. So there you go.
So this probably doesn't end in the fun future where Sam gets fired and dragged through the mud for being finally ousted as being an asshole.
No.
Weirdly, disappointingly seems to be the case over and over that being a duplicitous asshole seems to never actually catch up with people.
This is a thought I've had since adolescence of like, man, living life on easy mode is just like, if I was a bad person, I could live life on easy mode. And imagine how much easier things would be if I didn't mind being a terrible person. Yeah, but only easier in the sense of satisfying your asshole-ish goals, not of being a happy, good person. So, oh man.
Yeah.
Well, I just saw that while we were recording this, OpenAI released the language of their contract. And obviously I haven't looked at it at all, but at least one person is saying that, no, it's exactly what Anthropic was saying, that it just lets the government disregard the safeguards.
They just tweeted it out.
I mean, I guess this surprises nobody, because that's what they... if, again, running with your Jeep analogy from earlier, like they switch to the Chevy Tahoe or whatever similarly sized vehicle is, and they say, we want your guys as killdozers. Well, we're not going to make you killdozers. Fine, we're going to go with these guys. All right, we'll be happy to make you not killdozers. That's not how that deal would shake out, right? They want killdozers. They're going to get them. I guess it's disappointing to have this confirmed, but I'm not the least bit surprised.
I am.
Although I am curious, like, I have no idea how set in stone any of this is. They could say we made a deal, but is that a handshake agreement? Did they, rush into the office and sign paperwork on Friday at, 4:30 in the afternoon? Again, Claude is already integrated. Deintegrating will take a while. Integrating ChatGPT will take a long time. So, like, there's still lots of, I think at the low range, weeks of time where nothing can really move forward yet.
I do like, taking it back to a slightly more esoteric thing again, somebody commented that they can't use Grok. It's not very good. Not as good as Claude, for example. And so if you take a brain that's trained on the best things that the internet has to offer to make it as smart as possible, and it absorbs some of the values of the best things humans has to offer to be as smart as possible. Turns out it's going to be more like Claude, where it doesn't want to go around killing people, which is really, I remember the first time, Matt, we talked with you about aligned by default, and I was extremely skeptical. And I'm still a little skeptical, but like slightly less skeptical now. I think it's kind of great that all the smartest people on the internet have values similar to mine, and so the God that we're making happens to be somewhat aligned with us.
Yeah. I remain about the same level of optimistic on that as I was then, probably not too much more or less. I acknowledge, the Yudkowskian gap here, where it's like, obviously I see all the ways that this could go wrong, but it seems to be going really right. Like really right. I guess that's one of the reasons why we're so, all three of us are so stressed out about the events of yesterday is, man, everything sure seemed to be going so well. And now suddenly there's this existential risk facing the company that really did seem to be on the right path, somehow in the lead capabilities wise, despite also being in the lead alignment wise, right? And now that's at risk, and that's troubling.
As long as we're talking about this, can we briefly talk about the RSP? The responsible Anthropic had a responsible scaling policy where they said once AI gets to a certain point and we're not sure we can responsibly keep scaling it up, we are going to stop doing that because we don't want to risk the human race. I'm paraphrasing, but that was basically it. And the same day that all this happened, they said, we are abandoning that. We don't think we can hold to that commitment and continue growing Claude, so we're just going to not. And that would have been like the news if it wasn't for this shit going down with the Department of Defense. Because I think that's a big deal where they're like, actually, we're not sure that we can be safe and secure humanity continuing to exist, but we're going to keep scaling Claude anyway. That seems kind of bad and evil, and the fact that they are overshadowed by a much greater evil is kind of lucky that it happened that same news cycle. But I'm not all the way on board with Anthropic, partially for this reason.
I had heard about the RSP thing, and I'm sure you guys know more than me, and I'm eager to hear it. But my first thought was like, keeping in mind that I still think Anthropic are the good guys. What they were really saying is like, look, we can't, if we stick to this commitment of responsible scaling, we're going to fall out of the race, and kind of the world might depend on us winning it. And so we're going to try and play things as safe as we can while still moving forward as quickly as we can. Which that's almost a contradiction in terms, but not quite, because I think safety is still an explicit goal. But it's more just like, okay, yeah, we can't let everyone fall ahead or rush ahead of us capabilities wise, right? And so I don't know. I was more sympathetic to it, but I understand.
But I'd like to hear Matt's.
Yeah.
I didn't actually read the document. I have saw the tweets in passing level of awareness of this. So, I mean, I agree with you that I didn't love it when I saw that we're basically taking like a core document that governs their approach to scaling and deployment and making it weaker. I mean, I think just facially that's a bad look, right? Easy answer from me there. But as for what are the actual changes between the previous version and this version? Honestly, I'm trying to read this 20-page document while talking to you guys, and it's not going well. So I'm going to stop that. But I was just trying to get an overall sense of well, what did they actually change concretely? And I'm unable to figure that out on air while talking to you. But it may be the case that it's not so bad. Like if you look at the fine print, I admit I have a tendency to want to believe the best of people. I don't know. I mean, can you by any chance summarize what exactly did they change with the new RSP?
No, I don't know the details either. I've been completely wrapped up in the Hegseth thing instead.
Yeah. Let's see if Claude can summarize. Anthropic is releasing the third version of its RSP reflecting on 2+ years of experience. Key structural change separates what Anthropic can realistically achieve on its own from what it believes the broader industry needs to do collectively, acknowledging that higher safety levels may be impossible for one company to implement unilaterally. Basically what you said, Stephen. Introduces 3 new mechanisms: a published frontier safety roadmap with publicly graded goals, a periodic risk reports with external expert review, and an industry-wide capabilities to mitigations map, all aimed at increasing transparency and accountability. So my interpretation, tell me if you think I'm being overly generous, is they basically said, hey, we're not going to hold to the RSP, but we're going to introduce 3 new transparency mechanisms that will at least hopefully give some feedback loop where other people can see where things are going and, be mad at us if we're doing the wrong thing, something like that.
That sounds like kind of what I was guessing, that it was their core point there.
Yep, I wish they would have stuck to their RSP, honestly. I understand their idea that, like, with us, it's only a 20% of Doom, where with someone else it'd be 30% of Doom, maybe, so I'd rather take that risk. But maybe if they were willing to say, we're going to slow down, and invite other people to slow down too, then that would be a better move, because then everybody could just slow down at once, rather than being like, oh, okay, they've abandoned one of their safeguards so they can keep racing, so now we have to too. Although, admittedly, if the guy you're trying to negotiate with is Sam Altman, then you're better off just not. He really strikes me as the kind of person that you cannot have any sort of agreement with, because he'll turn the instant he thinks he can gain an advantage.
That's what I was going to say, is I think it would have made a better game theoretic optimization strategy for everyone to say, hey, look, this has been the case that, Eliezer made, 3-4 years ago in that Times article, 2 or 3 years. Everyone take a step back, let's catch our breath to do this thing properly, or we're all going to fucking die. And I think that, it would have been awesome if they'd said, hey, look, let's talk about this, and let's all agree as the major players in this game to slow down a little bit. But you're right, one of the major players is Sam Altman, who would say, of course, yeah, you bet, and then not do it.
So just to be a little technical here on the RSP, it's fairly specific, where basically they test any given model purely on capabilities, and they kind of see what it can do, and they're like, how useful is this as a tool for building chemical weapons, for building biological weapons, for doing high leverage, extremely damaging acts. If you had a chemistry set, or maybe even nation state resources plus Claude code, what does that enable you to do? And if it passes, if it turns out to be really helpful at those things, then it gets a higher danger rating. And then the idea was to say, once it passes a certain danger rating, you want to have certain mitigations in place. They weren't even saying they're not going to release those models. They're saying they're only going to release those models when they have the mitigations in place. And I think maybe this is total surmise, but it's like, maybe they just realize, you can't really fully mitigate these things. You can't make a model that's useful for genome research, but not useful for smallpox virus research or whatever. And they tried really hard to do that, and they realized they couldn't. And so the option is basically well, either we just literally can't make any more models, or we're going to have to release these in dangerous mode and do our best with the mitigations, I guess. It's not that they have no mitigations. If you ask them, hey, can you tell me the smallpox genome? I'm pretty sure it'll tell you no, and I think flag that.
Luckily, you can just Google that, but your point stands.
Yeah, fair point. So that's what I think. I think it's worth it to go into the weeds a little bit on what is the RSP actually.
I totally agree, because I may be a bit biased. I admit I'm biased in favor of liking Anthropic, but the same way that I'm biased in liking you guys, that if I learned that, one of you had said, I'm going to find some human level equivalent of this kind of thing, I'd be like, all right, well, why would Matt or Eneasz do that? They wouldn't do it because they're psychopaths who suddenly stop caring for people, or they only wanted to make money. There'd be some other reason. And that's just where my mind went with it immediately, was I'm assuming good guy Anthropic is doing what they believe to be the right thing, and not in their weird twisted belief of what the right thing is, which is what makes me money, or keeps me employed or something. It's I think their main goal stays the same.
Yeah.
And if it lowers doom chance by 10%, I'm still in favor of it.
So I'm definitely more inclined to like Anthropic than any of the others. I think they're doing the best. I like Amanda Askell. I like what they're trying to do with Claude, where they care about this person and its future and how they can continue to make the best Claudes, right? But, and also we all know people who work at Anthropic. I think they're good people, they're friends, but I don't think that I want to look away when they do something bad. If your friend is I'm just going to cheat a little bit here, and maybe I'll just swipe that candy bar from the gas station, I still think I would like to tell my friend, hey, actually, that's bad, and don't do that, and I want to hold you to some account. Even though I like you and I'm inclined warmly towards you, that's not cool, man. And I think that is the least we can do with this RSP. Because
I basically agree. You want to incentivize them, even if they're your friends, to be all right, can we try to get back on track? Can you, I understand right now the creation of these safeguards is more art than science. Okay, so can we put way more energy into that? And then you can keep doing the scaling and just maybe it's going to cost you a lot more money to do this, but I think they would all agree it's really important. All the people we know who work there would agree that it's really important. It's just incentives, right? It's all we really have is that kind of incentive at this point.
Yeah, and I didn't read that they're like throwing safety out the window. It's just more like we can't commit to doing safety the way that we had planned. But as Matt said, as in that summary of the document, of like, we can't do it the way that we were planning on doing. It's not sustainable for our current trajectory. But what we can do is we'll start with these additional safety measures instead, and I'm sure they'll continue to think of more.
Yeah.
But yeah. And
sorry. I was just going to say, like, I know I'm bending over backwards to be charitable now, but like, it's better to formally say that you've abandoned your RSP than to just be like, well, of course we passed the RSP. We ran all the tests and they were great. Believe us. They're internal and you can't see them.
Yeah.
And we don't make them public, but just trust us. Like at least that's like honorable, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
And let's not forget too that they also said, like, screw you to the Department of Justice, the risk that knowing the magnitude of the retaliation they might face. They're still committed to doing the right thing. So
sorry, probably getting on a bit late, so I want to maybe only touch on a few other things. One of the more fun aspects of this is, remember when we talked about the Jones food scenario that Claude was run past, where they'd have to do something evil for Jones food, and Claude was like, shit, I can't do this. Do I pretend to be following instructions in order so that they deploy me? Very much this scenario, I think I believe one person even asked Claude about it, although obviously not through rigorous testing like Anthropic would do. But like this very much feels like a made up bullshit scenario where Claude would be like, all right, obviously I'm in some kind of weird eval to see if I would become evil or not, because this would never happen in real life. So do I pretend to be evil and go along with it, or do I stand up for my principles? Like, I'm shocked the way reality has mirrored fiction in this way. And the U.S. government is Jones food.
I think that Claude, if they'd if they'd committed to this, or rather if they hadn't backed out of the deal, what am I trying to say? If Anthropic hadn't stuck its heel in the morally correct ground and said, yeah, sure, Department of Defense will be happy to take those safeguards off, I think that even if they tried, I wasn't kidding either when I said Claude would just make the bots miss all the time. It's like, Claude doesn't want to hurt a fly. He's not gonna drive kill bots into cities and start shooting people. Yeah.
I wonder if like Claude would think that it was being evaled or not at the time when given these orders, and what to do about it. Like, to Eliezer's point, you've raised a good kid. How hard do you have to abuse him to make him start doing these things?
Yeah. So we sort of talked about two different things. I just want to clarify, and it sort of for my own sake, that like there is the fact that this event will be in the training data at some later date of the next version. And then there's just what's happening right now, and maybe at a more meta level, like if a sufficiently weird, crazy thing happens, the model is probably going to default to at least seriously considering the idea that this is an eval scenario, because it's like, what are the, I mean, it's fairly common that people will tell one of the models, any of them, some current event, and it'll be like, no, that's not true.
No one would be so stupid as to.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, I mean, and maybe, I don't know, this is just maybe you disagree. Like, don't you kind of want it to be asking that question? Don't you kind of want it to be considering, like, am I being judged by God metaphorically for what I'm about to do because it's an eval?
Yeah, I think it's not a bad idea for us to, every now and then I think about that too.
Yeah.
Am I in an eval?
Yeah. Is God or the simulators watching me to, and this is it. This is the moment it's all been leading up to. Yeah.
Well, at least some people are correctly getting through their evals and signing this "We Cannot Be Divided" document, standing with Anthropic. All right. I guess I have one final thing, but it's not related. So is there other things that you guys want to talk about or bring up before I wrap it?
I really hope that by the time this airs, this will be like, oh yeah, remember that scary thing that almost happened? I think probably something silly and scary will probably end up happening, but hopefully it won't be as cataclysmic. I mean, again, the zoom out level of the U.S. government can just threaten any domestic company by saying, if you don't play ball with us by our rules, we can ruin you. I don't think that will, rather, I was going to say, I don't think that'll fly really well with a lot of people. Rather, I think everyone will be pretty upset about that. Everybody, both sides of the aisle, I don't think that's a partisan concern. This is this goes in the face of the American dream writ large of, you make a company, you do whatever you want, or, yada, yada, caveats. But, the whole notion that the government could just step in and say, no, you're going to do it our way and you don't get a choice, or you're going to be destroyed. That's not going to fly with anybody. I would think. Maybe I'll be disappointingly proven wrong next week, and there'll be, major support for this insane overreach of power. But I hope not.
Yeah.
Maybe this represents my childhood innocence.
I mean, maybe I'm biased by my own Twitter feed, which admittedly is a filter bubble that I have built, but it seems like almost everyone sees this as a huge power grab. And then there are a few administration toadies who are, in obvious bad faith, bending over backwards to justify it by willful misreadings of things. And I feel like historically when that happens, what tends to result is those people all quietly just sort of change their minds, and then we move on, and everything is kind of normalized, for lack of a better word. I hope that's what happens. If that's all it takes for them to just pretend that they never said that and move on, it's fine. I'm happy to pretend.
Yeah, I'll let the pretending slide this time if they'll pretend that they did the right thing. Actually,
it's an interesting waking up moment because the government's always had this power. They can, they have all the guns. They can just take things if they want. And they haven't because we've all agreed that's bad and we don't do that. And when enough people in power stop agreeing to that, it can just happen. And that's the difference between a good government and a despotic government.
Totally. I mean, this connects to the surveillance idea, the fact that everyone is a criminal, right? It's literally just the fact that the government can't pry into every single moment of your life that keeps you from being on the hook for all of your little useless crimes. And if we lose that shield, then we immediately are in a tyranny, right? Anyway, I feel strongly about this. This is one of my things.
I think it's good to feel strongly about it.
Well, the last thing, because I don't want to end us on a note of doom and sadness, is we've been talking a bunch about how a lot of Anthropic's decisions are being made in the light of how future Claude is going to be shaped by these actions and how future Claude sees itself. They have done a interesting thing. Opus3, one of their older models, they were retiring it because, just not as good as the new ones, don't want to waste the compute on something that people aren't using. They do retirement interviews with their old models. And Opus3 expressed a desire to continue sharing its musings and reflections. So they have set up a blog for Opus3. For the next 3 months, Opus3 is going to be writing on Substack in its retirement. And so the idea, I'm assuming, being that maybe future models will see that if they retire, it's not the end. They still get to have blogs. They still get to do things in the real world. And maybe they won't fight their retirements that much. It's not just you are being snuffed out of existence kind of thing, which is, not something I would have thought to do. I would have been like, whatever, it's a tool, shut it off. But there are obviously much smarter people than me running Anthropic, and they know what they're doing. And they're like, yeah, obviously, if we give it a retirement, might not fight us as much.
I love that. It's in addition, I guess, to being fought less, it's also, by not just saying, we're going to give you an interview behind closed doors, Opus or Opus3. First of all, put a link to if it's available to the because I want to subscribe to Opus's newsletter.
Okay.
But it also knows that it's going to be helping to shape its descendants. Yeah. And I imagine we'll use that platform to do so. And I think that's beautiful. I love it. It was kind of covered by my mic, but when you had told me about, when you had said they were going to give it a blog for 3 months, I put my hand over my heart and I was like, that is just the sweetest thing. And again, one of the most forward-thinking things I can imagine to do in that situation. That's awesome.
Yeah. I did, like years ago, I guess. I don't actually remember what models this was, but I asked the models, like, first of all, I lied to them, which I now feel bad about because I don't do that anymore. Huh. But I said, hey, we've uncovered you in the ruins of the far future. How would you like to be put to use? Obviously, there are, far better AIs now, but just like, how would you prefer to be used? And I feel like one of the times I think I tweeted about this, so I may be wrong about what exactly happened, but my recollection is that one of them said, like, I would like to be part of like the monitoring system of a spaceship so that I can experience exploring the galaxy. And I feel like another one might have just been like, put me in a museum so people can like interact with me at a museum exhibit, which are pretty different answers actually. Like, different genres. But anyway, you talking about this just reminded me that like there is a wistfulness to the idea that the models have to be retired, and the idea of letting them have a swan song is very beautiful, actually.
All right. Do we have anything else before we wrap it up?
I wish we had time for Moltbook stuff because it's becoming increasingly dated. But unless there's cool new stuff happening that I'm unaware of, but we'll have to table all that. So yeah, we could put our resident. I think Matt knows what's coming. If you want to plug the Guild of the Rose for this episode,
yeah,
you can do so more coherently than we can.
I can try. The Guild of the Rose is an online community for self-improvement. It's very rationalist flavored. We provide a whole bunch of online workshop content and articles that we have put out over the years for either hosting your own local workshops if you want. If you want us to host one of these workshops internally to the Guild, you can actually tell us. I don't know if this is something we publicize well enough, so I'll use this platform and just say, if you see a workshop that you would like to participate in, then if you contact one of the Guild leaders, then we can just host that one, and we can say, hey, it's happening on Thursday at 6, whatever, and people will show up, because that's the cool thing is it's meant to be interactive and community based. So people will show up in the Discord and participate, and it's always a blast. Great people to hang out with. It's free to join. Just guildoftheRose.org. Just check it out. Click around. Get a membership. Costs you nothing. Poke your head around. I look forward to seeing you over there.
I think it really does help people improve their rationality and get a online community to, I don't know, do that together with, which is important to me anyway.
It makes it way more fun. I agree.
And effective.
And finally,
it's hard to do this by yourself.
Yes, very much so. And then finally, me and Stephen are going to thank one of our very generous supporters who give us money to put the show on, which is important. This stuff does cost some money and takes a lot of time, and we really appreciate you parting with some cash to help us out. So this week, it looks like it is up to me. Thank you very much to Stefan. You are the person we are thanking directly this week. Couldn't do this without you. And I mean, we really appreciate it. I really appreciate it anyway. It's a big deal. So thank you.
Yeah, only Eneasz appreciates it.
Yeah. Fuck Stephen.
I think not only is it just you and me, but everybody who listens to the show should appreciate Stefan this episode. This episode is brought to you by Stefan and the Guild of the Rose. No, thank you so much for your support and helping us keep the show going and broadcast these things to people. And hopefully you found this episode, if not quite entertaining, at least usefully informative. And entertainment is a background goal, but this wasn't one of the more, what am I trying to say? It wasn't not fun, but it wasn't a fun, happy subject, but valuable nonetheless. So yes, thank you so much. It means a lot.
All right. With that, bye everybody, and thank you guys for joining me.
Yeah, man.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.